Hey everybody. So I'm going over to Danny's to do a podcast. He is the host of Stuff I Kind of Care About. He has a page on Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. You guys heard me talk about him. He's been on this podcast before. And so anyway, I'm going to go visit him and we're going to hang out and talk and do his podcast. And we're going to do like a Swapcast. I'm going to record mine while he does his and then we're going to both upload. So give him some love. Go over and check out his page. Give him a thumbs up. Say, hey man, checked you out. He's on to something. So anyway, support community. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yep. It's all right. How do you want to kick it off?
I'm cool with whatever.
You like to do the hi, I'm Danny McWilliams?
Yeah. All right, let's do that. Hey, folks, this is Danny with Stuff I Kind of Care About podcast, and today I'm hanging out with my friend Joshua Peak from Stuff I Heard podcast. If you haven't heard about it, you should go check it out. He is a really cool dude, and he is fantastic at talking about things in an educated manner, yet not being pretentious, which is a great quality to have.
That's kind of a way of saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'll make it up as I go along.
Absolutely.
Well, this is, my podcast is the Stuff I Heard podcast, so it's literally, it couldn't be factual, it could be something you heard when you passed by somebody, it could be a conversation, it could be something you watched on television, you're like, oh, that inspires me to want to talk about this. And so it could be anything. And literally every conversation could be that way. Oftentimes when you're with friends, that's the conversations you have.
Right.
But there's moments in those conversations where you go, God, that was good. I wish we could have saved that moment. Because it was, and sometimes you hear other people's conversations and you're like, I want to, where can I jump in? Yeah. So I kind of wanted to have that open.
Absolutely. And it's always, I'm going to lean over and check the levels. Ooh, they still look good. It's always a little bit more fun when it's organic.
Yeah.
And it's just like hanging out. That's what last week was with I Am No Cash.
Yeah.
Had a ton of fun. Oh, by the way, he wants you to hit him up.
Okay.
Because apparently your info didn't save for him. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him.
So he wants to do some stuffs with you.
Yeah. I want to teach him how to start his own. I know you could do a lot on your end too with what you have going. But there's always workarounds with everything, and it's all a matter of what do you want to do. I like to do the broad picture. Let's talk about what you want to do.
Absolutely,
and then let's.
And he may want to hone in on something.
Yeah,
and that's totally legitimate. For me, I like it since my life has been so varied, and I've come from so many different directions. I like being able to talk about just all the stuff.
I hate those conversations where you pass by people that you grew up with and like, so what you been up to? And you're like, a lot. I don't want to boil this down into a conversation.
Head, I just wish I hadn't run into you.
Right.
I'm sure you're living your life and you're doing your thing over there, but do we not need to pretend to care?
It's like I went to a class reunion. Okay, so I'm a bit older than you are. I'm 45, and so I went to my 20th. I went to my 20th high school reunion, and weirdly enough, I kept in contact with the same people that I always wanted to keep in contact with, and I stayed friends with them, and we stayed hanging out, and we stayed doing things together on random weekends whenever we had time, and we could go years without speaking to one another because social media wasn't always what it is now.
Right.
But when we saw each other, it's like no time had passed. Conversations picked right back up. Oh my God, I can't believe, and we had inside jokes with each other. We got a buddy of ours named Rodney, and we grew up during the Rodney King incident. So every time we see him, we're like, the King! And he's like, hey guys. Of course, he's Filipino, which makes it even funnier.
Oh, yeah.
But, the thing about the reunion is everybody met at my house. Most of them were spending the night at my house during this time. Mm-hmm. We all went to the event together. My wife drove us because she was going to be the sober driver. Right. We had a minivan at the time because we had 3 teenage boys. And, at the thing, I keep bumping into people that I think, I don't remember you. I don't know. We never had a conversation. Right. And random people just like, oh my God, we should hang out. And I'm like, why? Yeah. I kept finding myself thinking, why? But here's the thing is, I've also realized that the older you get, especially as an adult male, it's harder to make friends as adult males. We're very guarded of our personal space and our personal time and that kind of stuff. And I was telling somebody recently, I said, I could literally live next to a guy. We both like watching the same team play on TV.
Mm-hmm.
We could both like grilling out. We'd go both like, drinking beer and hanging and just being homebodies. And I could see him outside grilling and we could wave at each other. Hey man, how's it going? And I could close the door. And if he knocks on my door, I'm going to be like, what do you want, weirdo?
Right.
Even though there's no reason why we shouldn't just hang out and watch the game together once in a while. Why do I want to hang out with him? But when you're a kid, someone could drive by on a bicycle and go, hey man, you got a bike? Want to go ride? New best friend. That's all it took.
It's so much easier. And
yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit different for me because I'm a bartender. Like
right.
I talk to people all day long.
Well, and alcohol helps loosen people's inhibitions, and they're like, I should talk to this guy because he seems friendly.
Right. And I stand up at the bar and I serve people food and drink all day, and I end up having really awesome conversations with people that you'd never really expect.
And part of the job of being a bartender is to sort of be a therapist in a way, because they're going to openly tell you things that they wouldn't normally tell their family members or their friends.
It's only mildly traumatic how much people just spill their guts to a bartender.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
There's a reason they're in there having alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's a Band-Aid.
And there's nothing wrong with it. No. It's just, it's one of those things that is very much awkward.
Yeah.
When people are in there just like, and it's not about like friends. Like when a complete stranger from out of town sits down at the bar and just starts giving you their life story, it's a very like awkwardly powerful feeling. Because you realize like this is they're putting you in a position of power. Like once somebody tells you their story, you have an amount of power over them. That's just the way that we are as human beings. And what you do with that is part of what defines you. If you take that and you use it to manipulate or control them, you're probably a terrible person.
Right. But it's also one where if you've had a colorful past in your own life, then you can find similarity in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And maybe you realize at that moment, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to talk to you about something that has to do with what you're going through.
I've had so many situations like that where I've developed, like a pretty casual relationship with a regular, and then all of a sudden, it's, hey, you're sober. Oh, holy crap, my son's going through that.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes this way deeper thing. And, I have this one dude that I was able to, like, encourage a ton. Just living sobriety in front of him in bars, showing him that it can be done.
Yeah.
And he, he came in a few months ago with his son. And I finally got to meet his son that I've heard about for the last 3 or 4 years. And it was super cool. It was awesome because he's a dad. All he wants to do is take care of his son. Mm-hmm. And he just, most people, if you've never been through addiction or you've never had a very close loved one go through addiction, you don't know how to handle it. And most people that have been through it or had somebody close to them go through it still don't know how to handle it.
Right.
I'm not saying I do. I've learned a couple of things.
Well, yeah, and everybody's path is different. Not everybody wants to get clean and sober. Mm-hmm. Some people don't. They always say that it doesn't matter how much money you throw at a problem, the problem doesn't go away until a person wants to change. And we've talked about that before. And I've dealt with that within our own household with my stepson. And, knock on wood, he's sober now.
Yeah.
Hopefully stays that way. Much better off when he's not, because his family thrives whenever he's sober. Like, he thrives when he's sober. And when he doesn't, it's all about selfish nature and selfish, whatever. But, like, he even asked me, or he told me one time, he said, no one ever asked me why I did it. He said, they always talk about,
what
shooting
you did,
of, and this is what you did wrong, and this is how it impacted us. No one ever asked me why. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that from other addicts as well, and they all talk about the fact of, some people say it's through low self-esteem, that maybe they got in with the wrong crowd, they were trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. Some people say it's to drown out their own problems or some issues they've had growing up. Some people it's sexual abuse or physical abuse growing up that they're trying to mask or get over. some people, it's just the awkwardness of life, and they don't know how to cope unless they do something about it. And, he was kind of a kid who was very, outward going, seemed like everything was fine, but it really just boiled down to trying to make friends with the wrong people. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I really had no reason other than that. And, it's all different for everybody, but, you truly have to walk that road. You're on your own, and it can be lonely, and it can be isolating for you and your family and your loved ones around you, friends and whatnot, because no one really knows how to help, and they want to help, and it's a hard path for a lot of people. And listen, our little town of Florence has grown up, and we have that all the time here now, which never used to be a thing, but it is now. And
well, it did used to be a thing.
Well,
you just didn't know about it.
Right, because it wasn't...
Families used to hide it way more than they do now.
Now
people that went through it aren't didn't used to be as open as they are now. Someone being as open as I am about it
is rare.
50 years ago was unheard of.
Well, it's even rare today, though.
It is rare today,
but it allows you in a position to talk to people on a level that maybe they don't have that ability to otherwise.
Absolutely. And that's part of it, the reason why I'm open about it and not like forceful about it. Like I want to talk about it if you want to talk about it.
Right.
Otherwise, what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
And it's I don't have all of the answers. I don't even have most of the answers.
Listen, we all have flaws. We all are screwed up in our own special way. And I love the church sign that says, were you going to judge me because I sin different than you?
Right.
We all have problems. We're all trying to deal with life as best we can, and none of us have instructions. And even if we have instructions, we're not going to pay attention to it. We're going to make our own stupid, foolish mistakes.
Because we're humans.
Because we're humans, and we're trying to figure out how it goes.
Yep.
What was it, the saying, you could tell a man that there's a billion stars in the universe, and he'll believe you. But you tell him the park bench is wet, and he'll have to touch it.
Absolutely. That's very apropos. It's crazy. I do want to go back to, you mentioned that nobody asked him why.
Right.
That for me was a massive turning point. The whole diagnosis thing is very easy. It's easy to look at your life and be like, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Whether it's addiction, whether it's diet and exercise, or mental health, or even just relationships. It's easy to be like, there's a problem. It's hard to find a solution, and it's really hard to figure out why there's a problem. Mm-hmm. For me, I still can't give you one answer as to why I did what I did. It's not just like a case-by-case basis either. It's all wrapped up. It is the feelings of insecurity. It's the feelings of not being good enough. It's having mental health issues. I can tell you right now that a huge problem is when you're obsessive compulsive and you're obsessing over something, and somebody completely invalidates your emotions by saying it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Like, it is that big of a deal to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm aware that you don't think it's that big of a deal, and you don't have to think it's that big of a deal. But I do, and trying to take that from me is dehumanizing. Mm-hmm. It's taking my voice, which has been a struggle for me.
And when you're younger, you lack the tools to realize that, okay, like, that's okay if someone else doesn't feel the same way I do. When
Absolutely.
You're younger, you're the way you view it, I think, is that you go, well, I must be the weirdo out of this scenario. You don't automatically have mm-hmm. the confidence to just go, oh, whatever, that's you.
That's a really crazy question. Why do we as humans assume that we are alone in our ineptitudes? We're very, very quick, as species in general, to assume that there's somebody better than us at a given task. You've started making furniture.
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to be confident and say, oh, there are many better people than me at this.
Oh, yeah. We'll see them on YouTube.
Right. But why is that our go-to setting as people, that we just assume that we're alone in our struggles? Whether it's mental health, addiction, whether it's abuse, either emotional, physical, or sexual, whether it's trauma. I mean, PTSD is a massively... I don't... Popular is the concept I'm going for, but not the word I'm going for. It's very out there. It's around a lot.
Yeah.
I can't talk today.
Prevalent.
But prevalent, thank you. And it's very prevalent, but it has this insidious nature that convinces everyone that they're the only one going through it.
Yeah.
And not in a negative, like, I'm the only one going through this, so, like, my pain is so much worse than yours. But in a, like, I'm the only one going through this, nobody will ever be able to understand what I'm going through type thing.
And the crazy part is like, we've gotten comfortable talking about PTSD from soldiers coming back from war and from, football players who are having head injuries and committing suicide. It's these, what we would consider icons of these manly men, these strong, confident guys that are literally wrecked whenever they're home and, are having such severe symptoms that they commit suicide on a ridiculous rate. And it leaves everybody asking the question, what is this? What's going on? And it's such a catastrophe that, we've now figured out what that is, and we're, actively pursuing that, it seems like as a culture anyway.
Right.
But then you go, oh, well, like this just isn't isolated to soldiers. This isn't isolated just to football players. This is also my friend who got beat up as a kid by his dad, or my friend who got mauled by a dog when he was a kid. This traumatic event happened to them as a kid, and now there's something wrong with them. Or you have a friend that maybe goes through a car accident and someone dies, and they're from that point on changed.
I wouldn't say there's something wrong with them.
No. That's what the idea is. But,
right,
But then there's that.
Okay, I see what you're trying to say. Like, that's how society views it.
Yeah, and now you're taking the average, what you'd consider civilian, who's now going through this, and you go, oh, anybody is acceptable to this. Yeah. And if we're honest about it, we all have some sort of trauma in our past that somehow changed us. Yeah. There was a big deal done about bullying, and we got to stop the bullying and the anti-bullying, and I'm all for anti-bullying. But also, bullying kind of promotes us to get outside of our comfort zone and maybe make a change in our life in a way. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who was obese most of his life, and at a certain point, he'd had enough of it, and he joined the gym, and he got really fit. And he's like, listen, I'm better off for it, but there was a time in my life where I really wanted to kill myself because I didn't fit in with society. And he goes, I could have gone a different path. I could have gone down,
You can make the argument for, just because something positive comes from a negative doesn't mean the negative's okay.
Right.
Which is, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like, it's a possibility. I mean, that's just the crazy part. It's anything
outlook.
Can happen.
It's outlook.
Yeah.
If you have a more positive outlook and you're willing to say things like, the question, and not a blaming question, but the question, what did I do to put myself in a position to be hurt? And not to say that you deserved what happened to you, but it's a diagnostic question of how do I avoid this in the future? Right? So...
Yeah, because your body's constantly your brain is thinking, I got to survive. This is going
to
hurt me.
if I go to a metal show and I get in the pit and I get the snot beat out of me because I'm in my 30s and I'm not as bouncy as I used to be, like, I can then ask, well, what did I do to allow this to happen? And it's not to say that maybe people shouldn't have beaten the snot out of me, but also, like, in the future I can learn from this,
recognize the
situation and maybe make an informed decision.
Well, I got these friends now that are these lifelong friends that are looking up bands that we grew up with. Oh, they're on tour, and I'm like, I don't want to go. What do you mean you don't want to go? I'm like, there's no part of that I wanted to be a part of. If we were younger, I would be all about it. But right now, I don't want to hear the loud noise. I don't want to be around the crowds. I want a bathroom nearby. If we're going to go to something, like, I don't mind going to comedy shows because I know at least the volume level is going to be where I can stand it. And I'm going to laugh and have a good time. If I go to a concert or something, there's a big possibility that as I show up, I'm going to think, this is the last place I want to be.
Speaking of comedy, we need to go to Columbia soon.
Okay.
Because they have the new comedy venue in Columbia that just opened up. And my friend John Gibson is a stand-up comedian.
Oh.
He's very good.
Good.
and he does a lot of work with that. And Jen Snyder, another great, like, really awesome person that I know. Unfortunately, I'm not, like, super close with her. She's the love of my life. I absolutely adore her. But we never really got to spend
Little did she know.
We're both interested in women. Anyways, and I'm comfortable with that. Jen, you're wonderful. I love you to death.
He's a lesbian, by the way. Just saying.
No. No. But yeah, and she just had a sold out show there Saturday.
Great.
And so I want to go see her ASAP or Friday night. I don't know. Jen, forgive me. She's not going to listen to this.
No, she's not.
No. But yeah, I know you love comedy. I love comedy, and I'd love to support local comedians.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with supporting the big acts and going to see them, but there's something cool about watching somebody that's a little bit more local and being able to support them.
Oh, absolutely.
And show some love for them. And it doesn't hurt that they're both hilarious. Mm-hmm. Like, they're both really good comics.
But it's the crowds that I want to avoid because as a survival technique, I go, I'm 45. I don't want any part of that. Like, there's nothing about that that's going to be fun.
Well, at least at a comedy show, the crowds aren't typically as bad as at, like, a metal show or a rock concert.
Yeah, because they're there to laugh.
Right. Most people are there to laugh. There's a couple of people there that are there to get drunk and heckle the comedian, and they'll be dealt with.
Yep.
And we don't have to handle them. We don't have to deal with them. We can find our own little pocket of serenity. And I feel like it would be a blast, dude. Like, saddle up, go to Columbia one night.
Yeah.
I can DD, because I don't drink.
There you go.
I'm such a nerd. Oh, man. All right, so we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess and figure out what we're doing with our afternoon. I also need to know how much time we've spent talking. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk to you guys in a minute.
Click. Clickety-click.
Clickety-click-click.
Is this recording fine?
I would like to hear if it's recording fine. Figure out what we're doing with our afternoon. I also need to know how much time. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk to you guys in a minute. Click. Clickety-click. Clickety-click-click. Is this recording fine?
Is this my battery on the top right?
Yeah.
It looks pretty low.
Yeah, we're going to swap your batteries out.
Okay.
Because mine is doing okay.
Okay.
God, these mics sound so good.
Yeah. The levels look. I mean, whenever I heard that,
grab them.
Was it just to pop them upside down?
No, it's one of these super annoying things.
Oh.
Eventually, I'm going to get a setup in here with extensions for these, so that I can leave these plugged in at the end, and then we can both sit comfortably, so I don't have to run batteries.
Yeah.
But the reason I like that you can run batteries on them as well is because I can take this on the road with me and mic 2 people at once.
Yeah.
And we're roses.
Hey, look at there, full levels.
Right.
I can see my vocals going up and down. Everything looks good.
Yep, and mine's still looking good. Heck yeah. And we're at a little over 21 minutes.
Cool.
So, probably going to want to do another 20-minute segment, and then
we can do as long as you want. I mean,
I don't really want to run much over about 45 minutes.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to listen to more than like 20 or 30 minutes, so.
Doesn't matter.
I know podcasts are a different beast.
Listen,
I'm still learning them.
I did an hour and 48 minutes with Greg, and it was just a conversation. I sat the thing on the couch, and I just said, let's talk. And he goes like, what about it? I said, I don't give a shit. And we just talked.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be like that all the time. It doesn't matter.
We can about whatever. But I do like putting ad breaks in.
Oh, okay. On purpose. Gotcha.
Right? I mean, why not?
I don't do that.
All right.
I am literally winging it the whole time. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn. I actually have a friend of mine coming over at about 3 today who his job used to be social media marketing.
Oh.
And all of that. So he does videography, he does like podcast stuff, he does social media marketing, he does everything. And he's coming over to hang out with me and start talking to me about stuff.
Ask him if there is a benefit to having like your own website. I've been looking at Squarespace, but I thought
I'm going to talk
part
it
of
over
that
with
could
him.
be.
And if you have questions, you can write or text them to me.
But that's one of the main things, because
Right.
I didn't know if the benefit was going to be you can have your own merchandise that you sell through it, or
You can sell that stuff through Facebook.
I know, but I thought maybe that's the purpose of it, or is the purpose of it to have the ability to say, here's where you can find me, and then
Right.
they can follow the links from there, because that may be easier than looking you up on any kind of social media or any
My
kind of certain
business cards are
podcast.
all social media. I don't want to send somebody to a website.
Yeah.
I
Do you have a website right now?
no.
Okay.
Let's actually. Hey everybody, welcome back. This
I'm
is
still
Danny.
doing this.
This is Josh. I know you're still doing it. We're just talking. So we're just hanging out talking about weird stuff.
Talking about social media and whether or not to publish
A website.
a website for what we're doing. Right now, this is the infancy. Obviously, for you, this is your second podcast.
Right. This is still baby steps.
Right. But, it can grow. Like, I went down the wormhole recently. Ugh, I don't know how I got on it. But somehow, I think I asked the question, what's the difference between Anchor and Lisbon? And all of a sudden, like, I went down this wormhole of finding a guy named Shannon Hernandez, the Shan-Man. Hi, Shan-Man, if you're watching. You're probably not. But anyway, he's a big-time radio host, podcaster, podcast developer, podcast producer out of the Phoenix, Arizona area. And he's got really long hair and a big beard and is grayish in parts. And, you can tell that he's a seasoned guy. He does like one of the intro videos I watch. He's sitting at a soundboard that's bigger than your table, and he has multiple computer screens and multiple microphones. And he's like, "Hey guys, I just want to talk about." And I was like, "Holy crap!" Because he kind of laid out this whole thing about how he felt that Anchor was probably not the pathway to go down. And then he just starts describing, terms of service, and he says, if you read the fine print of their terms of service, it says that they own your content. And while that may not be a big deal for a lot of people, it is a big deal for some people. And I was like, why do I care? Like, I'm building an audience. This is just me building an audience. And I'm not a sound engineer. I don't know all the technical stuff. I don't know how to publish on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and all these other things that Google Play has and whatnot. I don't know how to do any of that crap, nor do I want to learn. I don't have the time. This is a hobby for me. And it just so happens that it's a hobby that I like sharing. Now, he goes into this thing about, well, what about the fact that, some of your stuff may end up being important down the road and you may change and then they own your stuff. And I was like, so,
Yeah.
you move forward. Like, I don't ever have the idea of, I want to make sure I hang on to everything in the past. I'm also thinking about moving forward all the time.
Right.
Because my podcast right now is stuff I heard. In the future, it could be something different, whatever.
Right.
But I do understand, like, YouTube goes, as far as YouTube goes, like, my content that I recorded, 8 years ago is still getting views versus my stuff now. And it's, a recent video may only have 20 views today.
Right.
But I go back and in a week it's got 40 views. And in another week it's got 100 views. And I go, whoa, okay. Because you build a catalog. And I guess that's kind of what he was talking about, is like if you grow to the point that you want to move on. But I was thinking, why would you want to move on? So I wrote him this lengthy email, or message or whatever on YouTube saying, thank you for your input, way more than I do. And I kind of am going down the rabbit hole of trying to decide, whether it's worth my time and money to go into Libsyn, which is a service that you have to pay for.
Right.
And so I went on Libsyn's website and looked it up, and their algorithm is really weird for how much you have to pay per month. And I was like, I just don't understand what I have to do here and why it's important. So in the meanwhile, I'd gone to a Christmas party at my mom's, and he, meanwhile, wrote me back a very, very lengthy explanation and put in links about, well, here's a video where I talk about this, and here's a video that may help you with this. And it's not all him. It's like other people's stuff, too.
That's
so
awesome.
This morning I woke up and I thanked him. Well, I thanked him last night before I went to bed. I was like, hey, I just got back from a Christmas party. I'll look at this later. Thank you for writing me. I appreciate the time and effort. I'm still learning and, all this other stuff. And I went and watched the videos this morning because I wake up super early. And one of the videos was done like a year ago, and I guess Spotify has bought Anchor, and by this time they had changed their agreement. Their agreement no longer says that the material is owned by them. It says that you own your material.
Okay.
Which is like, anytime you want to transfer it to another service, you can. And he goes, so let's just talk about, like, if you ever want to. And he gives, like, very detailed technical stuff about if you want to do it, this is all you got to do.
That's awesome.
And he goes, and it doesn't matter if you're leaving Anchor to go to Libsyn or Libsyn to go to Blueberry or Blueberry to this or
whatever you're doing.
This is how you do the steps. And he's very knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. And I thought it was super helpful that he was friendly enough to reach out and give information to just about anybody. He even watched a couple of my videos. He's like, I like your videos. Your sound levels are good, especially when you use your mixer board. And he's like, but you only got this many views on this video, and I think you could have way more if you did this. And he sent me some links, and I was like, oh, this is really helpful. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I wrote him back, and I was like,
I love people like that.
This is all about community, and this is all, I said, my big thing is about community, about building community from within. And if you have a group of creators that want to help each other out, then why not help each other out as much as possible? And what you're doing is super helpful, and I hope that you can keep it up. I'm going to stick with Anchor for now. I like what they're doing. I like the fact that they seem to move everything very simply for me. I don't have to think about it.
Right.
I literally just hit go and it goes. So all the other technical aspects, I went ahead and subscribed to them on YouTube because I'm like, I'm going to watch more of your videos because it's all about podcasting and it's all about marketing yourself and it's about
that's awesome.
How you get this, how do you grow your audience? How do you develop this? How do you do that? He's got technical issues on cameras and microphones, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to use this guy as like a source of information.
This is just a wealth of information.
And I don't know how long he's been at it. He's got like 7.7 thousand subscribers on YouTube, so he's got like an audience following him. And I read comments from people, and they're all creators, and they're all talking about this is what I'm doing, or this is what I did, or so they're all helping each other along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's
again, shout out to
Shan-Man,
Shannon Hernandez on YouTube.
That's awesome. That's a whole thing that eventually I'm going to have to go down that rabbit hole.
Ugh.
I'm just kind of doing the podcast thing on the side for now and focusing on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because YouTube is really, for me, that's where my passion has been, but I'm quickly falling in love with doing podcasts because it's a really good excuse to hang out and talk about fun stuff or not fun stuff.
Who is it? Bert Kreischer said on his podcast, he's like, listen, the podcast is an excuse for me to hang out with friends that I would never really get to have these conversations with.
Right.
I'm like, hey, let's meet at 3:00 on Saturday and we'll talk for 2 hours. He goes, in my normal life, like we'd pass each other by and when we're doing things and we'd never have these conversations.
Right.
He goes, but now I got an excuse. Let's sit down and let's podcast and let's talk about it. And he's exactly
I love
right
about it. I mean, it's a massively good excuse. You and I are both really busy. It's hard for us to find time, but we're here doing a podcast, It's one of those things where both of us said, yeah, let's do this thing.
And I'm playing with these cool microphones, these Comica WS, I don't have my glasses, 60.
It's the Comica WS60. They are wireless lapel mics, and it's 2 transmitters into 1 receiver. So you have to mix the levels on the receiver itself. So you want to be careful with that. If you don't have a way to test the audio first, you may get bit from that. But it is mixing stereo. And so I love the sound of these mics. I think they sound awesome.
Yeah.
They're crisp. The tone is nice and warm.
Good.
It's not as good as that condenser was.
Yeah.
But you're also not going to be able to fit that much microphone into this size package.
Right.
And there are way better lapel mics out there. If you want to get a really good lapel mic, get one of like the Sennheiser or something like that. Rode makes a really good one as well.
They have a new one out. It's like squarish looking.
Yeah.
I just seen it advertised and I was like, ooh, that looks neat.
So their new lapel mic, it's like in a little plastic or rubber thing.
Yeah.
That's meant to be taped to your chest under your shirt.
Oh.
And so
through your shirt it gets your voice.
It's a no visibility lapel mic and it's gorgeous. And I want one so bad. Christmas is coming up.
Jingle bells.
Yeah, I'm not getting that for Christmas. But these I'm very happy with. I love how easy it is now that I'm really starting to figure them out. I love how easy it is to just mic up 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even have to be near each other. Like, I can walk into the other room. It's going to record both of our audios clearly.
Well, let's say you're in a big room and... Well, I think, for example, me hanging out with my buddy Greg down at his house, I had to put the camera probably 20 feet away from us to get us both on the couch because we wanted to sit comfortably on his couch, and it was fine.
Right.
But this would have been really handy to sit up between us, and it would have picked up our voices really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Although I used the iPad, it sat in between us, and it worked fine, and the audio was fine. I just had to move it over. And it's just all learning to deal with what you have on hand. Now, this is not saying that you got to use any of this crap to do this.
No, you can record it straight onto your cell phone.
Yeah, use your cell phone. Yeah. I mean,
the cool thing is these record straight into a phone. So I actually could be running this into my cell phone, recording into the Anchor app.
The only drawback to doing that is you want to use like a voice memo app and not the Anchor app to record. Because what I learned was when you do that, if someone calls you or texts you, it completely just shuts it off and you lose your audio.
Right.
Whereas if you record on like a voice memo file, and
it'll like pause it for you.
Yeah, it'll pause it.
Right. That's why I'm using this on the computer instead of my phone.
Yeah.
Because I remember that story and I'm terrified of losing audio files.
And I've tried. People are like, "Can't you just hit the do not disturb?" It doesn't work.
Nope.
It doesn't change
It may
anything.
be. You have an iPhone, don't you?
I do.
It might be different on an Android. It isn't?
Nope.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine try it. He's like, I'm in the middle of recording and my phone rings, and even though I had it on Do Not Disturb, it still cut it off. And I was like,
terrible.
That sucks. But that's kind of why I used the little miniature iPad thing. I had bought it for doing the stuff with the drone years ago, and I got rid of the drone, and I thought, one thing I didn't want it connected to anything that would give me alerts or disturb what I was doing.
So you could run this into your iPad, and it would be working perfectly.
Yeah.
Because you also couldn't have GarageBand on here, right?
I do.
You cheeky monkey. I may need to get an iPad.
Listen, this was like, I want to say the mini was like $300.
Yeah.
It's not bad. This is the brand new one, the Mini 4 or whatever.
Right.
But it's, it does everything you want it to do. Mm-hmm. But again, I didn't want it connected to any kind of social media. I didn't want it disturbing anything. I wanted no alerts. Mainly for the drone, because I was like, if I'm flying, the last thing I want is something to disturb what I'm looking at or controlling.
Right. That's not
okay. When I got rid of it, I was like, what am I going to do with this thing now? And I thought, the podcast. I could just use it for the podcast.
That's
Why not?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
Absolutely get a set of these mics.
Maybe.
You're gonna.
No. I don't think I will.
Really?
No.
Why not?
Well, I'll tell you why. There comes a point of diminishing returns, and when you start purchasing more and more stuff, you go, what am I doing with this other stuff?
Right.
Here's an example. Let's talk about cameras.
Yes.
Okay. So I have that really big, ridiculous camera that I bought for YouTube, which is nice. The thought process was I had a Canon G7X Mark II, which is basically the size of a cell phone. Really good pictures, really good audio, great in low light. We were going to take it to Disney, and it worked great at Disney for getting pictures at night or during the day. The castle looked beautiful. The problem is when you're doing a podcast using it, let's say I pointed at myself to do like a video like vloggers do, it tends to want to autofocus at times where it focuses on things in the background, or if you move your hand in front of it, it focuses, and then it goes to focus on your face, but it takes a little too long. There's a bit of a lag there, and it's because it's a point-and-click, basically, camera, and also it's limited by the 30-minute window that DSLR and mirrorless cameras give.
Yep.
Still a great camera, but with the growth of the YouTube channel, there is the reality of, okay, either I'm paying taxes on this money, or I need to start buying equipment and having a tax write-off to kind of offset what I'm making, so that I can then justify the fact that, hey, I'm not making a lot of money on this. Because you're not. You're really not. I mean, you start off in the beginning, and if you're lucky, YouTube sends you a check for like $100 once every 6 months.
Right.
And then it grows, and then before you know it, you're making a few $100s a month, and you're like, whoa, I never saw that coming. Right. And that's literally almost everyone's story.
Yeah.
I never saw that coming. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's for my dad, he started back when YouTube started as a way of him showing me how to do some things. He lived in Maine, I lived in South Carolina, and he was like, I'm going to start, and the first video he did was setting the valves on a 1964 AMC Rambler.
Ooh.
he had a 350 Chevy motor that he put in there that came from a guy that was a tow truck driver in Canada. The guy got in a wreck, totaled the tow truck, but the engine was perfect. Dad traded him a guitar for it and poked it in there, and it's a hot rod. Well, his first video is him setting the valves. That's the first video. That's the connection of that car to the whole thing. And from there, he started making videos of fixing things around the house, fixing the pipes, fixing the electrical, whatever. And it just grew and grew and grew. Now my dad, you can look on YouTube, RPeek, R-P-E-E-K, short for Richard Peek. Every day he's putting up 4 and 5 videos, and he's got like 28,000 people around the world that subscribe to him and watch videos every day. And if you read the comments, they go, wow, this is better than watching TV.
Yeah.
He's wholesome. He's very kind. He talks about all kinds of stuff. He shows you how to fix all kinds of stuff. And it's great entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
During the process, he's playing banjo, and he's building banjos, and he's, you name it, he's doing it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I never saw this going more than just to you.
Right.
And now there's literally people that are in other countries that are writing me going, hey, I just built my first banjo watching your video, and I learned how to play this song. And they're showing him videos, and he's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, inspiring something in someone else.
Some guy in England, like, I bought this car, and I needed to know how to do a brake job, and I watched your videos, and I went step by step with you, and you helped me. Thank you so much. And he's like, that's so cool. Right. I did that. I got to pass that along to somebody I'd never meet in real life.
I got a message from a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in several years. And it's just like paths diverge. And like I think about him regularly. I used to live with the guy, love him to death. And so Zach messaged me a few weeks ago and was like, hey dude, like I'm back in Florida now, like if you're ever around, like let me know. But I was watching your video of doing bookbinding the other day and you inspired me, and he sent me pictures of these journals that he's been making. Oh, dude. Okay, so they're gorgeous. And I'm jealous because now I want one. Zach, do you hear that? Zach, I want one. But then this dude is just like doing all the creative stuff. Like he made a watch case for his dad.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Like beautiful, right? Super, super gorgeous. Why aren't you going up any further? Anyways,
it's one of those things also where, to me, like when you get to share that kind of stuff with people, you build a community and you build a camaraderie.
Big deal.
You can teach each other, but you can also challenge each other. Like me going and visiting my buddy Greg, he's showing me a different style of cooking steaks that I hadn't thought of. And at first bite, I think, wow, this is a great steak. But also my competitive brain goes, I want to make one and see if I can outdo you.
Yeah.
Not that it's not an experience that I want to go, wow, this is really good. I couldn't help saying out loud, oh, I challenge you. And he's like, what? I said, I challenge you to a cook-off. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I want to make one and I want you to eat it and be like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. No, that's one of those things where it's
I was like, it's that, but it's a compliment. It's that good. Like, I feel like I want to try to one-up you just a little bit, or to have you, you know, for a moment just go, oh, God, you did a good job. Like, I want to make one a little bit better. And maybe we go back and forth with it or try different things. And I'm sure that a lot of people go through that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, those turned out beautiful.
Like, they're gorgeous journals. And, I want to... That's part of what I'm trying to do is get to the point where I can have a shop. Because not having a shop is just killing me.
Yeah.
I'm dying inside. But it's okay. I'll persevere.
Yeah. You can be like me and piss off your neighbors and just do it out in the yard.
Dude, I'm so close. And
my neighbors are like, oh, there he is again. Hey.
I know that my neighbor across the street wouldn't care, and Bill wouldn't care, and Nan would tolerate it if it's during the day. Like if it's at night, she'd hate me.
I try to be sensible in the fact of I don't want to do this when people are supposed to be sleeping.
Like between 8 and 8.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a Saturday or Sunday, then you push it up to 10.
Well, you do.
Let them sleep in.
You live a little closer to your neighbors than I do.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I'm out there at 6 o'clock in the morning as soon as, in the summertime when the sun comes up, And I'm like, because you
never
think about
up
where my
at
garage
6
is.
in the morning.
My closest neighbor's maybe 100 feet away, 200. Well,
right.
Let's say 200 feet away.
Right, they're not that close.
They're not that close. Yeah.
I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and that's 3 hours earlier than I usually wake up.
Oh wow! I slept till 7:30 this morning, which is 3 hours later than I normally wake up. Well, 4 hours. I got up at 3:48 yesterday, and I was like, "Well, I guess it's time to get up now."
You're a monster.
I know. Well, it's my work schedule. My work schedule's always been that way. You know.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do, Marine Corps and then Budweiser and then Coke and now with Performance, every morning is getting up super early.
Well, I used to when I was bouncing at Annie's, dude. I wasn't asleep till 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And
I got a friend of mine who's a bartender at the beach, and he literally is not getting home until 5 o'clock in the morning most mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'll call him for lunch sometimes, and I'm like, hey, are you available for lunch? And he's like, sorry, I didn't get your text. I was still asleep. And he'd be calling me back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, well, of course you didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bug you. But he always tells me, hey, if you're ever in the area, give me a call and we'll do lunch. And I'm like, okay. But yeah.
If by lunch you mean at like 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's his lunch.
Then
it's
yes.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. My son lives in north of Seattle, and he works the late shift, and he lives with 2 roommates. They also work late shifts. And so when he doesn't drive, he's got a couple friends that have cars. And so when they get off work, they don't go out and go shopping at the grocery store until after like midnight or 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And he says, a lot of times I'm not in bed until 5 a.m. And he's on Pacific Coast time. So if I ever try to reach out to him, I may not hear from him until 5 o'clock p.m. my time. And he's like, yeah, I just got up. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But, that's just his schedule. It's his
we all have different
rhythm,
schedules. And it's fine. It's fine. I like my schedule now. I like that I can... I'm basically like about 1:30 to 9:30 is my sleep. Because right now I'm at a point in my life where 8 hours is what I need.
I don't know if I could get 8 hours. I did get 8 hours last night.
See? You can.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Maybe once a week I'll get 8 hours.
You got this.
Yeah. I don't know. I have fantasies about what it would be like to have normal people schedule hours, and I just wave at them as they go by.
See, I'm doing the awesome of being off at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and so I've got the whole evening into the night ahead of me. If I'm in bed by 1 in the morning, I'm doing good. Like, I'm asleep by 1:30. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for work the next morning.
I struggle to stay awake to watch anything on TV past 9 o'clock. My wife's been in this thing lately of watching Disney Plus. They have a series on their Imagineering story, and I either have to start every episode and then finish watching it the next day or a day later because I'll fall asleep in it. And it's really good stuff. And she goes, did you finish watching it? I was like, yeah. She goes, no, you didn't. I was like, sure I did. She goes, did you see the part with the Star Wars stuff? And I went, I missed that part. She goes, that was in the middle. And I was like, well, sorry, I was asleep.
Speaking of which, I have a project we need to work on soon.
Okay.
But I can't talk about it on mic because somebody that it's for might overhear.
Okay.
So remind me to talk about Star Wars things with you.
Star Wars things.
Star Wars things. I'm going to cause trouble. And I'm actually going to go buy the stuff for it today.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up. We can keep talking if you want to, but I'm going to wrap up my end.
I do want to talk about my shirt. My mom got me a shirt. It says Tulsi Gabbard, Veterans for Tulsi, which is kind of a funny joke because she went to D.C. for a trip. She's kind of a big deal in nurse practitioner circuit, and she got invited to D.C. to do a public speaking event. And while she was there, she called me, and she's like, I got you something. And I was like, okay. And when she came back, she handed me this gift, and she was all excited. And she was like, you're going to like it. And I was like, okay. I opened up this bag, and it's these socks, and it says Kamala Harris on it. I was like, what is this? And she's like, isn't that the lady you like? I was like, no, it's not at all. This is the girl who's running against her. And no. I was like, literally, Tulsi rips her a new butthole every time they do a public speaking event.
Oh, my goodness.
I was like, this is the opposite of what... I was like, Mom... Really? I was like, you and I have had lengthy conversations about Tulsi Gabbard being a veteran, and she was like, oh, that's right. So I think she felt bad about it, and then so last night when we did Christmas, she gave me a shirt, and she got me these little stickers, and I think in order to do that, you have to donate to her campaign. So I think my mom donated to her campaign just to get me a t-shirt, which is really
amazing.
awesome. Yeah. Well, she's in...
I mean, way to go, Mom.
She's in a public speaking thing in South Carolina today. She's been here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think Friday she was in Orangeburg. Yesterday she was in Greenville, and today she's at Furman University.
Nice.
So, of course, that's a bit of a drive, and I would love to be there, but it's like from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I can't make it up there. It's too far. But anyway, I'm really hopeful that she's going to, keep the campaign going, and I know she was not invited to the recent debate, but I don't care. In today's society, why do you need to be invited to these debates so that you get 45 seconds to talk, just so that you have a voice? There's open platforms everywhere where you can reach people on a person-to-person level.
I honestly, I would love to see a politician set up a YouTube live debate.
Yeah.
Where they just go on YouTube live and they answer questions in the comments.
Well, and Joe
an ANA.
Joe Rogan is the only reason I know who she is. Because he invited her, he heard her talk. He was like, hey, come on the podcast and talk. She talked for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And he was like, that's awesome. Love to hang out with you. He invited Bernie Sanders on. I'd never heard Bernie Sanders make more than one-sentence speeches at a time because everybody cuts him off short. So he has to get all crazy and throw his hands up in the air and seem extremist.
Right.
And they had a 2-hour conversation where he got to talk very level-headed about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't always agree with what anyone says. Neither one of these politicians do I agree with 100% of what they say.
No.
But that's normal. You're not supposed to agree with what everybody says. I mean... You're different people. You have different interests, different desires, different whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's about finding what you believe is best for the country and for your community. Not necessarily you personally.
Yeah. And it's for her, it is the level at which she's willing to listen and talk to anyone. Mm-hmm. She's willing to reasonably listen to your conversation and talk about it. And, okay, well, that's a good point. Let's discuss it. And in no way is she's basically the opposite of Trump. She is very level-headed, very conscientious, very thoughtful. She's also the only candidate that's running that served our nation and is continuing to serve in the armed forces. She's a 16-year veteran as a combat medic with the Army.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Plus, she's a representative, 2nd Congressional District of Hawaii. Right away, you've got leadership, you've got worldwide knowledge, you've got interaction. She's been in battle. She understands what it's like for American servicemen to lose their lives. And she's like, this is an area that we don't need to take lightly. And I'm like, finally, someone's
She also
having this
understands what it's like to come home.
Right.
After that.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, the government does a pretty decent job of taking care of their troops overseas.
But not here.
Once they come home and they get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a friend that literally was just at the VA for the 3rd time in 2 weeks because the VA lost his enlistment paperwork and is claiming that he doesn't get veterans benefits anymore because they lost his paperwork when he had his original copies of everything with him. Mm. And they're claiming they're just trying to screw him out of being able to get his benefits. And that seems a little shady to me.
Now, I will say there's elements of her policies of things she wants in the future that I don't think is plausible or is probably not the right path. But also, I don't know everything. I'm quick to say I don't know everything.
I mean, we're just a couple of idiots.
I could be wrong about what I think is important. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, is nothing is achieved solely because one person wants it. We were lucky to live in a country where you have 3 branches that have to kind of agree on things in order to make things happen.
Right.
And, what was it? I heard Obama, he was on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, and they just happened to be drinking coffee in the basement there. And he asked me, he said, if you could relate being president to a sport, would you consider it like tennis? Like you have an idea and you hit it back and forth kind of thing? And he says, no, it's more like football. You have a goal of what you want to happen, and you try to make that thing happen, but a lot of things can go wrong in the process, and a lot of people oppose you, and a lot of people are working in ways to make whatever it is you come up with not happen. And he said, but every once in a while everything works, and you get to move the ball forward. He said, that's kind of what being the president is about. He goes, and you also take the blame for everything, no matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
He said mostly it's just bad. All the bad, you're the blame for it. He goes, but you try. That's all you really can do is try.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, that's really cool, but also, I heard Joe talk about this, and he said, being a president is kind of an ego thing, just to be able to tell people, well, I'm the president. And let's face it, if you're the president of the United States nowadays, you're kind of the big deal around the world.
It's not just these days, dude. That's the last 100 years.
But he asked Tulsi, he said, why do you want to be president? She said, I don't. I don't want to be president, but I believe in service over self, and I believe that in order to serve the people, you got to listen to the people, and you got to be about the people, which is what our government was founded on. And she said, I just have a calling to help people with what I can do. And if I can do this, great. If this isn't the path, then it'll be that way, then whatever.
Right.
But I feel like I have a calling to serve the people. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what a great answer.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
What a great answer. So anyway, I'm supportive.
I like that.
Tulsi.
I like it, man. And I like that. That's a good note.
Yeah.
I mean, service is a good note. Whatever form it takes.
Service over self.
Service over self. Whether that's actively serving in the military or just serving your community. Not just, or serving your community. Because not to say that anyone is better or worse than the other.
I got a friend of mine, 23 years in the Army. He retired. And I'm going to have him on the podcast at some point. His name's John Floyd. He and I grew up together. He lived in this area as a kid, and we've had personal conversations where he talked about being in combat and holding his best friend's brains in his hand, and he's got some PTSD from that, and you can see it in his eyes and you hear it in his voice. And yesterday he spent the day at the National Cemetery putting wreaths on the gravestones at the National Cemetery, and it is that service that he cares about. He's like, my friend didn't make it home, but I did. This is the least I can do.
Absolutely.
Is pay honor and respect to his family and the families of those who died for me. Mm-hmm. So, there is that element of, like you said, no matter if it's for your country or just for your community or just for your neighbor, do something for other people to make this a better place, and it will be. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to social media. Don't let people, dissuade you from trying to push each other apart. You can do whatever it takes just by reaching out to people that maybe you haven't spoken to in a while and saying, hey, by the way, is there anything I can help you with? You need some help with anything,
Do good recklessly.
We could, yeah. Do good recklessly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I like it.
That's all I got to say about that.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm quickly fading. I shouldn't have woken up at 6 this morning. I hate it.
Well, at the end of my podcast, I always say cue the cow. What do you do at the end of yours?
I don't know. Goodbye.
You got a thing yet?
No, I don't have a thing yet. I'll catch you nerds later.
Nerds. Love it. Awesome.
Cue the cow?
Cue the cow.
All right.
Okay. Really fun hangout with Danny. We did about an hour podcast. I'm going to upload it, and so is he, so it's going to be like a Swapcast. Again, check him out at the Stuff I Kind of Care About. Pretty cool. Anyway, thanks for checking in.